Hello. So in this lesson we are going to learn about how to get the equation of a line, usually from 2 points. So the learning goal is to understand what's the slope-intercept form of a line and how to calculate the equation of a line given 2 points. So let's start with the slope-intercept form of a line. This will be the equation we will use, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So y equals mx plus b. Now, in this example right here on the right, we see a green line that is passing through 2 points, through 2 coordinates. One is -1, 1, and the other is 0, 3. The coordinate 0, 3 is actually the y-intercept, because that's where the line intercepts the y-axis, which is this vertical line here. So the first step is to calculate the slope of the line. To do so, we're going to take those 2 points, the 0, 3 and the -1, 1, and we're going to put one on top of the other, as I'm showing here. So we need to remember that the slope is basically the difference of the y's over the difference of the x. Okay? So it tells us about the inclination of this line, how inclined, how steep the line is with respect to the x-axis. Now, when I say difference of y over difference of x, I mean we're going to subtract one coordinate of this y here, this 3, minus this 1. And we're going to divide that by the difference of the x's, which is 0 minus 1, as we see here. So what we're doing again is taking the first y coordinate and subtracting that from the second y coordinate. That will be the numerator of the slope. And the denominator of the slope is the first x coordinate minus the second x coordinate, which in this case is a negative number, -1. Now we proceed. 3 minus 1 is 2, 0 minus 1 is positive 1. Just remember that -1 here times -1 will give you positive 1. Now 2 divided by 1 is 2, so that will be the slope, which we will use in the equation in the first part. And the y-intercept will be given by this number here, by the 3. That will be the y-intercept. So y equals 2x plus 3 would be the equation of the line for this example. Now let's calculate the slope for 3 different cases. The first one, they give us 2 points, 2, 4 and -3, 2. So again, we put one coordinate on top of the other. Doesn't matter which one is first, as long as we follow the rule of applying the difference of the y and the difference of the x in the same order that we see here. So the slope will be 4 minus 2, that's the difference of the y's, divided by 2 minus -3, that's the difference of the x. 4 minus 2 is 2, 2 minus -3 is the same as 2 plus 3, because -1 here, there is a 1 even though they don't put it there, times -3 will give you positive 3, and 2 plus 3 will give you 5. So that's the first example. In the second example, they give us other 2 points. They are giving us 2 points, 2, 3 and 2, 5. again, we put one coordinate, the 2,3, on top of the 2,5. And again, I repeat, you can put a 2,5 first, as long as you follow the same direction when you subtract the y's as when you subtract the x. So here the slope would be 3 minus 5 divided by 2 minus 2. Now, in this particular case, the denominator is 0, and negative 2 times 0 would be undefined. So every time we see a denominator 0, the result will be undefined. Just remember that. Now, in the third example, they give us 2,4 and 3,4. So 2,4 and 3,4, again, we follow the rule. We're going to do the difference of the y's over the difference of the x's. So it will be 4 minus 4, which is 0, and 2 minus 3, which is negative 1. Now, 0 divided by negative 1 is 0. So very different from the previous one. When the denominator is 0, we get an undefined. But when the numerator is 0 and the denominator is any other number, then we get 0. Okay? Now, these are three different examples that will show three different types of slopes. Now, we're going to go into the 4 types of slopes that we can encounter in general. The first one is a positive slope. As you appreciate here, if we are walking from left to right, we will go up because of the way this line is. That's what a positive slope means. That if we move from left to right, basically if the x increases, the y also increases. So that's why it's positive. Now, if the slope is negative, it will look like this. The line will look like this. So if we move from left to right, we will go down, as we see here. So basically, if the x increases, the y decreases from left to right. That's why it's negative. Now, in this horizontal line, the slope is 0. So if we move from left to right, we do not change in altitude. We do not change the y. As you see here, the x changes, but the y remains constant. So basically the change in y is 0. That's why the slope is 0. Now, in this case, when the line is vertical, the slope would be undefined because basically we cannot move. We can change in y, the y can change, but the change in x is 0 because we're stuck there. We cannot move. We're stuck in one particular x. There is no change in x. So that's why the denominator is 0, no change in x, and the slope becomes undefined. Now, let's do this particular problem here. Write the equation of a line that passes through these 2 points, 5,8 and 3,2. Again, the first step would be to calculate the slope. We put one coordinate on top of the other, and we get the difference of the y's, which is a minus 2, right? The first y is 8, the second y is 2, and we divide that by the difference of the x's, which is 5 minus 3. The result would be 6 over 2. A minus 2, 6, 5 minus 3, 2. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. So that will be the slope, which will be replaced in this m here in the equation of the line. Right there. So now that we have this, we still need to figure out what the value of b is. To do that, to calculate that b, which is the y-intercept, we're going to take one of these 2 points, either the 5,8 or the 3,2. For this particular problem, I chose the 3,2. Okay? You can choose the 5,8 if you want. So why do we choose a point, a coordinate here? Because we need an x and a y to replace the x and a y values in this equation here. So in this case, the x is going to be 3 and the y is going to be 2. So I replace, instead of the x, I put 3. Instead of the y, I put 2. Now that I replace those two values, now I have one simple equation where I can find out what the value of b is. 3 times 3 would be 9. I want to get rid of that 9 so I can isolate my b. I subtract 9 on both sides of the equation. 9 minus 9, 0. 2 minus 9, negative 7. And that would be the value of b, negative 7. Now I replace that value of b here, and I have the equation of the line. Finally, we're going to look at two special cases, how to find the equation of a horizontal and a vertical line. So let's start first with a horizontal line. The horizontal line that crosses across 2, okay, basically is crossing the y-axis at point 2, will be labeled y equals 2. So all we see is what axis it is crossing and at what point. This line is crossing the y-axis at 2, at positive 2. So the equation is y equals 2. The reason why this is like this is because this line, every single coordinate in this line will have y equals 2, right? If we go to this point, it will be 2,2. If we go to this point, it will be 4,2. If we go to this point, it will be negative 2,2. So every single point, in every single point of this line, the y coordinate is 2. That's why they label it y equals 2. The x will change, but the y will be always 2. That's why they label y equals 2. And again, the simple form to get the equation is just to look at the axis you cross, in this case the y-axis, and the point at which it is crossing, which in this case is 2, y equals 2. Now, if it's a vertical line, let's see, this vertical line crosses the x-axis at negative 2. So we call it x equals negative 2 because it crosses the x-axis at the point negative 2. And again, why is x equals negative 2? Because every point, every coordinate in this line will have a value of x equals negative 2. The y's will change, but the x will always be negative 2. That's why it's labeled like that. Now, let's see other examples here. If this line crosses the y-axis at point negative 4, it will be y equals negative 4. If this line crosses the x-axis at 4, it will be x equals 4. And with that, we finish this lesson. Thank you very much.